If you really like art, you've probably considered pursuing it as a profession. So when you think about college, you probably want to go to an art school, an institution especially equipped to teach you all you need to know about your chosen discipline. And that's what I wanted to do too. I wanted to go to an art school to study animation, specifically in the US, as the animation industry is quite strong in that country. So take into account that this video will be about my experience as an international student applying to art school in the US. My dream was to get into a good art school, live in the dorms abroad, and enjoy my experience in a school surrounded by artists. That never ended up happening. So stick around as I tell you about my search, application process, the inevitable crash, and how I got back up. Let me introduce myself. I'm Mal, I'm currently an animation student, and I'm hoping my experience can help someone else who is in a tough spot when it comes to art school. So let's get into it. My journey begins in high school, 11th grade. I'm already wanting to get ahead of application season. For a while, I had set my mind into animation as my degree of choice. And so, I started doing my research online. As said before, I wanted to go to a school in the US, as I consider that to be beneficial to my resume and would allow me to be immersed in the American animation industry, which is plentiful compared to other areas. The search was tiring. I would search up college rankings for animation programs in the US and would go one by one looking into the programs. What I kept my eye on was their rankings, of course, but also their curriculum. Were the classes they were offering what I wanted to study? Another thing I kept an eye on was connections. In the animation industry and art in general, connections are very important when getting jobs. So I would search for universities with industry connections. I must have looked at like 100 universities. But when I was in 12th grade, I condensed it into a list of 6 universities I would like to attend. 1 would be my top choice art school, 2 lower priority art schools, 2 non-art schools, and 1 safety non-art school. Now, I'll say my system is the one that worked for me, and people like to have a different amount of universities in each category. The reason I only had 1 safety is because at the time I was sending in applications, I had already been accepted to my safety. Since it is in my country and I applied very early to my safety, I already had a response. So the fact that I was going to college was already set in stone. It was now a matter of if I got into the ones I wanted and was convinced were going to set me up for my future. Applying for a school in the US was different, but not completely unfamiliar, thankfully. The main issue with my applications was I had to provide English proficiency. Now, I wasn't concerned about my ability to speak or read the language, but I was worried about the tests I would have to take. I took the Duolingo test since it was accepted by a couple of my universities and was a lot cheaper and more accessible than most English tests. But for another school, I had to take the SAT. You can imagine my stress. I went through the motions and eventually got my SAT score. I passed, huzzah! The other part I was dreading was essays. I'm confident in my writing skills in English, and I honestly enjoy writing essays. But it was just so many essays. But I got them done. I pushed through my procrastination and got all my essays done. Now that's just regular college stuff. What about art school stuff? You see, when you apply to an art school, more often than not, they will ask you for a portfolio. So that's something I had to put together. A college entrance portfolio was not expecting anything magnificent, but it is expecting a level of understanding higher than that of the average person. Maybe I'll do a video looking through my portfolio one day. Since I got into animation, I put in a short film I had made, 2 animation exercises, sketchbook pages, full illustrations, and some character designs. This gives them a full idea of how you go about creating, it tells them how you think, so it is important to have a variety of projects. But remember, it's quality over quantity. The portfolio had an artist statement I had made, and off it went. The portfolio is definitely the most important part, I would say, when applying to art school. It's what you're going there for. It's also really important for scholarships. A lot of the time, art schools will award scholarships to freshmen with outstanding portfolios. Final touches were added: teacher recommendations, translated transcripts, the like. Soon enough, I had sent all of my college applications to the US, and all that was left for me to do was wait. I was very lucky to have been accepted into a study abroad program over winter break. So while I was stressing over what the decision would be, I had something to take my mind off of it. And it was actually over that study abroad program that I got answer back from the 3 art schools I had applied to, since I had applied early. Lo and behold, I was accepted into all 3 of them, and with scholarships too. I was ecstatic. I truly believed I would be able to go to my top choice for a moment. But here's where things get real, and a little depressing to be honest. Art school is expensive. Like incredibly expensive, especially in the US. Most art schools are private. The arts keep being defunded, and so you have the best chance at getting the best education in a private art school. All 3 I had applied to were private. Despite the high price of tuition, I wanted to give it a shot and see if I was awarded enough scholarship money to be able to attend. And despite getting scholarships in all 3, when I did the numbers, it was still not enough. And so early on, I had to give up on the dream of attending art school. I'm not gonna lie, I pushed down on my real emotions on the matter for a while because a delusional part of me still held on to hope that maybe I did the numbers wrong or that my parents would surprise me by saying that, hey, we want to send you to one of those fancy art schools. So in the meanwhile, I waited on the non-art schools to get back to me. One replied with an acceptance letter and a generous scholarship, but numbers weren't looking great again. My last hope was on a public school 3D animation program. I was confident I was gonna get in due to my grades and SAT score. According to me, it was more than enough. But I got waitlisted and then rejected. It seems silly now. I'm currently in a great spot, but back then going to college in the US was everything to me. It was like my life was ending. A tad dramatic, I'll admit. It was what I had been working on for years. I remember I had put all of the numbers of each college into a spreadsheet, and I stood in the kitchen with my parents just hoping there was a way, but nothing. Let's just say it was a very emotional night for me. My life path had been completely altered. In high school at the time, we had just done an assignment laying down the next 10 years of our lives. And my idea of what the next 10 years of my life would look like were completely based on the idea that I would go to college in the US. So it felt as though my future had been lit up in flames. I had no idea what would become of me. I'll admit, it was naive to assume things would go my way. But you can't blame a girl for hoping. After all of that, I was in shambles. But I had some great parents, who truly want me to follow my dreams, as cheesy as it sounds. I had accepted at that point that I would go into my safety school. But then they suggested I take a gap year and try to apply to the US again. I was honestly so shocked. I never in my entire life believed my parents would suggest that. I was always under the impression that they wanted me to keep my education going and that they wouldn't want to financially support me if I wasn't studying or working. The fact that I have such supportive parents is such a privilege, and I am so lucky to have them. So it was decided I would take a gap year. I won't go too into detail on my gap year, as that was an emotional and mental journey for me. I'm not going to unpack that in this video. But I'll just say, it was the first time in my life I wasn't worrying about school. I had always been so stressed about my grades that it felt a little weird to not have classes for a whole year. Back to applications, I had the set plan I would apply to a couple of the same schools as well as some new ones, and maybe even expand to Europe. But then again, my gap year was a changing experience. I realized I had been sold an idea that the only way to succeed in animation was if I went to the US to study. I looked back on my safety, and honestly, it's a really good school. The animation program is great despite it not being an art school. So I basically deconstructed everything I had convinced myself of a year prior, and I decided to attend my safety school. The application process went smoothly, and I was a lot less overwhelmed compared to when I was applying to 5 other colleges alongside surviving my senior year. I got in, and I also got a scholarship that lessens the financial load. So yeah, I'm set. I'm studying animation at my safety school in my country. The journey was tumultuous. I just want to remind people that there are so many choices when it comes to studying art. There are many incredible artists in the industry who didn't go to the best schools or didn't even go to school at all. Sometimes the path you're sold is not the right one for you. Make the choice that feels right for you, your art, and your circumstances. I want to recognize I am incredibly lucky and thankful for my parents, who supported me and guided me through this. The me of a couple of years ago would have been probably devastated to hear we stayed home. But I think that was a very necessary reality check I needed. I'm grateful for the experiences I got while applying to foreign colleges, and I got some great feedback and encouragement from portfolio reviews I did with one of the schools. I believe there was a net positive from all of this. So, if you're thinking of going to art school, just remember to keep an open mind. There are a lot more options to succeed in art than you think. That's it for me. See you next time.